Around as Climbing the Pocket Network presents Jayson and the boys talking everything Minnesota Vikings. Watch the countdown timer.
Away we go again. Lost like I'm lost on purpose. If found, please return to. Girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road. I've been here before. When I get home, girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road. I've been here before. When I get home, my vision blurry, I'm paying the cost. I'm not enough. In fact, it's even better when you're not involved. When I miss your call, I feel that I evolve. Cause at your mention, I am more dependent than a college student on their parents or an old person on their pension. Not to mention when you hit me on WhatsApp without attention. And a bad booty bitch walks in, she looks tempting. Look, my Achilles heel is when I say what I feel, you say, baby, come home. And I don't think that I will, cause all this motherfucking stress is gonna get me killed. Girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road. I've been here before. When I get home, girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road. I've been here before. When I get home,
Huddle around as Climbing the Pocket Network presents Jayson and the boys talking everything Minnesota Vikings.
No, I can't play these games. No, you can't disrespect and call me names. Sending me signals like you about to switch lanes. Well, go on, do your thing. Go on, do your thing. I mix champagne and propane, get lit. I'm trying to forget all the things that you said, all the things that we did. Girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road. I've been here before. When I get home, girl, don't you know I'm lost on the road. I've been here before. When I get home, watch the breakdown. And I get home when I get home. You just gonna act like we normal now. Good luck. Don't you try to call me with that bullshit, telling me you're sorry. You act too quick. That's somebody else's problem now. You're somebody else's problem now. Don't you try to call me with that bullshit, telling me you're sorry. You act too quick. That's somebody else's problem now. You're somebody else's problem now.
We're back, gentlemen. We are here once again, another week of In the Huddle. And we're just going to jump in. I got nothing witty to say today. It's been a long day. Feeling a little tired. We're just going to hop right into it. And we're going to go first and foremost to my man, wide receiver one, Myles. How you doing? How you holding up? How are things around your way?
What up? I think today was a heavy day. One of those, situations with the Derek Chauvin trial, murdering George Floyd. I think kind of getting the verdict that we all expected, but also at the same time needed. It's hard to say because it's one of those situations. We knew what it should have been. We knew going into it, but I was still nervous. I got the bubble guts. I got that nervousness feeling in my stomach when we found out that the verdict was in, and then the waiting, and then we get the verdict and it goes the way it should go, and you still kind of feel this unease, and so it's just kind of he should still be here, right? It's not justice. It's not justice to me. It's you could call it accountability. They're starting to hold people accountable for killing someone, but it's only a start. it's really, there needs to be more than this. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I feel you. Flip, how we doing, man?
We're doing well. Thanks for those words, Myles. We saw the Vikings put out a statement. We saw the NFL put out a statement. We saw the NFLPA form a criminal justice reform committee that Eric Kendricks, our star linebacker, is on. And so, we have to recognize that the fans, there are several fans who are affected by this, and the players we root for every Sunday are also affected by this. So,
all right. Well, it's difficult to make a pivot from that into the stuff we're going to talk about today, but we're going to try to do it anyway. We're going to try to add some levity, try to make this show an escape from, but there's also going to be times where, real shit pops up and we're going to have to talk about that. So, Myles, thanks for letting us know kind of where you're at, how you're feeling, because this is in your backyard. It's something that's affecting a lot of us. And let's hop into to talk about these things, these items that we have on our list of stuff to do today. It's draft season, which is Flip's favorite season. And we've hit the part of draft season where folks just are saying everything about everything. Mac Jones might be 3, Justin Fields. Like, we don't know what's going on anymore. And the Vikings have had a lot of different players, a lot of different position groups linked to us at this point. And so, Flip, because I know how much you love the draft, I need you to help me out here. Because edge rusher is getting a lot of steam these days. A lot of people talking about edge rusher being, the position that we need. We got to round out Mike Zimmer's defense to get them back into top tier status to get this team where it needs to go. And so we're going to go through Myles. We're going to give you a couple positions. I need you to give me the case. Make the case for that position as to why it should be a position we draft. Other person can go counterpoint, and then we'll keep it moving. So, Flip, because I know how much you love defense, I would like you to make the case for why edge rusher should be the Vikings' first selection in the upcoming draft.
You're going to make me make a statement for edge rusher.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow. I don't even get to choose. Well, Jay, you look at that 2019 season, and the Vikings had a lot of holes on that 7-9 team. And one of them, the biggest one you could argue about that defense, was the pass rush, just a complete lack of pass rush. We saw DJ Wanham start way more games than a 4th-round pick should have. He was serviceable, but if you talk to our boy Nick Olson, he wasn't impressed. We saw Fadio Degbo. He went into the 2020 season with big shoes to fill. Everson Griffin leaving. Odenigbo got a shot to start, and it didn't go so well. He's no longer with the team. Stephen Weatherly is back, former 7th-round pick. People don't think he's worth the starting role. So really the question is, who is starting across from Danielle Hunter? And yes, you can go the developmental route, but edge rush is one of the most important positions in the NFL. It's one of the biggest factors in stopping the pass game that's becoming more prolific in today's game. The way you solve that after everything the Vikings have done at cornerback over the last 3 years is you go get a Jalen Phillips, you go get a Greg Rousseau, and you or a Kwity Paye, and you fix that hole. Because when you start to look at the board, not only from a need perspective, a lot of the value looking at a Reefs consensus big board on The Athletic or looking at Dane Breuer's big board, you can stay at 14 and get one of the best edge rusher in this draft class. So that's why you go with defensive end at pick 14.
Ooh, I love it. Myles.
How painful is that, Flip?
Why should you not go edge?
It was terrible.
Well, I'll try to help you out. So the reason they shouldn't go edge rusher their first pick, because at what point do we tell Mike Zimmer, hey, you've had enough help? Like, now we got to do something about the offense, because Mike Zimmer's come out and talked about not being worried about the offense. Well, we've talked at length this offseason that the offense has gotten worse since the end of the last season, and we're pretending like and they haven't done anything in the offseason to really do much to improve the offense. And now we're talking about adding their first pick, the 14th overall pick, to be an edge rusher. When your offensive tackle, your left tackle position is vacant. I mean, Rashad Hill's, below average left tackle. But at the same time, all they did to address the interior offensive line was trade for a really bad Mason Cole. And so you're looking at a scenario where the offensive line has gotten worse. The offense as a whole has gotten worse because of that. And you're coming into the season with an unknown in your offensive coordinator and Clint Kubiak. So a lot of these factors, and you haven't done anything to help your young coordinator out yet. You added a bad Mason Cole, and you're hoping that he could be your left guard. And I'm being told that defensive end is the hole that needs to be fixed ASAP because Stephen Weatherly and DJ Wanham aren't good enough to as a rotation to get it done. When you added you get Daniel Hunter back, you get Michael Pierce back because he wasn't here last year, and then you added Dalvin Tomlinson to that defensive line. You're telling me that you can't have an average to below average starting defensive end there, at least to start the season? Like, you can't tell me that that's not okay. Like, they got Patrick Peterson, Xavier Woods, Nick Vigil. Like, they added pieces to the defensive side of the ball. Mackenzie Alexander. Like, what do you need, Mike Zimmer, to have an elite defense? You literally need high-level players at every position for your defense to be elite. And so now I'm being told too that defensive end is the other place that needs the hole to be filled, because offense is whatever in the NFL today. Offense isn't that big of a deal. The scheme will fix everything. Kirk Cousins will overcome all the deficiencies around him, yada, yada, yada. And the defensive end will be the one thing that really get this team over the top.
All right, then.
No.
Well, Myles, I mean, you're talking offense, so we're going to go the other way. And Aiden in the chat was saying, maybe we could trade up to address this, but I'm not going to make you talk about the trade up. I think I know how you feel about that. But
thank you, Mr. Shea.
Myles.
I really appreciate your vote. Upcoming election.
Make the case for me, Myles. Offensive tackle, first pick. Not a trade up, but just standing pat at 14, taking an offensive tackle. How you feeling about that?
Pretty easy to me. I mean, like I talked about with not wanting a defensive end, the Vikings offensive line has gotten worse since the end of the 2020 season. They got rid of arguably their best offensive lineman from 2020 in Riley Reif. He went and signed with the Bengals for $7.5 million to play right tackle, even though he was good. He was above average. He was good at left tackle in 2020, but he goes and signs to play right tackle with the Cincinnati Bengals. So that's kind of where life is at for Riley Reif, when we could have had him back and not treated him like dog shit the last year, trying to replace him with Trent Williams, trying to threaten to release him to take a pay cut, and then have him come back again and say, hey, we probably need you to take another pay cut to keep you around, Riley. And Riley said kick rocks, as he should. And so now the Vikings are like, well, we'll bring Rashad Hill back because he's been a good swing tackle for us. And that's what he's been. Rashad Hill is a good swing tackle for the Vikings. But him to be your starting offensive tackle when a team already has a bad offensive line, yeah, that's exactly what he says. Figure it out. Like, so the case for offensive tackle is pretty easy. There's a few offensive tackles that fit really well into what the Vikings do schematically. They're good in pass pro, and it's a position that the Vikings need to. They already have to pay one of the guys, so you need to find another replacement now. So go find a guy at pick 14, Christian Darrisaw. If Rashawn Slater slips, I've always said to Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State, you have him at right tackle and you kick Brian O'Neill over to left tackle. It's not the ideal situation to move Brian O'Neill, but it's another one of those scenarios where you're at least doing something to help improve your offensive line. And to expect any other position but offensive line at this point would feel weird. Now, we won't go down this road either, but offensive tackle is the only position that has a major hole there that needs to be filled. And expecting they don't have a second round pick, so expecting them to either trade up in the third or find some way to add an impact offensive tackle outside of the first round it's hard to find when you don't have a second round pick.
All right, Flip. Can you go the other way? Everyone was giving you some props there for arguing, the inverse of your preferred position when we were talking about the edge. Talk to me now about offensive tackle and why it should not be the pick we make in the first round.
Okay, so I want everyone to know that this entire segment is just so Jayson can torture me and make me spout these arguments that I don't truly believe in. But it's okay, Jay. We're friends. I will humor you right now.
Also, you are very good at this, Flip.
The offensive tackle, the need there, you really just got to look at the board and ask yourself how you feel about Christian Darrisaw. It's that simple. Because newsflash, the Vikings are not the only team that need offensive line help and offensive tackle help. So Rashawn Slater, he's just not going to be there. You can't expect for him to be there. Christian Darrisaw, yes, I think that's a viable option, but haven't heard much Vikings buzz when it comes to him. So past those two players, it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to reach for a need? You're going to reach for Tevin Jenkins? Or are you going to try to just combine both need and value at pick 14? To me, going offensive tackle, if that's what you want to do, at pick 14, you got to look at the board. You got to see if Rashawn Slater falls. And if Rashawn Slater falls, it's a trade down before I try to reach for any type of offensive lineman there.
All right, Flip. Since you feel like I'm torturing you here, I'll give you pick quarterback, wide receiver. Which one would you like to choose?
I'll choose receiver.
Okay.
Man.
So tell me why receiver should be the pick, Flip.
I mean, it's not that complicated. Why we got to do all these analyses? Rashad Bateman at pick 14. Ooh. He can play. He's underrated. He's got history for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, knows the Twin Cities. You pair Mr. Twin Cities with Justin Jefferson, with the other man who wore purple and is also from Minnesota, Adam Thielen, wearing purple in college at Mankato State. It's this simple. Just go get your guys, get the wide receiver trio, get the wide receiver duo of the future, and let's roll.
All right. Now it's Myles' turn on the hot seat. Myles, why should we not add a wide receiver in the first round?
Because
Let's go.
I don't have a viable reason to say no, other than they technically have bigger holes at offensive tackle and defensive end. That's really my only other argument. I mean, immediate holes, but that's really my only reason. There isn't much else to say for why I think they should pass on a high-end pass catcher like a Rashad Bateman, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, if any of those guys made it to 14.
Okay. Since you didn't put like your full heart into that one, like Flip, I'm giving Flip the choice again. Do you want to argue for or against quarterback, Flip?
No, let Myles have the quarterback, man. Look, he's all pouty today.
All right, Myles.
Man.
Argue why we should pick a quarterback at pick 14.
Well, so here's a situation I think people keep forgetting. Everyone's so focused on 2021. And I understand from like Mike Zimmer, Rick Spielman situation and even the Wilfs a little bit that like this season is all about trying to get to the playoffs and all that. My thing is that one player that you pick in the first round isn't going to be the reason you make or miss the playoffs, in my opinion. There really isn't. I think that's what free agency and trades are supposed to be about. Free agency and trades are supposed to be about filling immediate holes to help you win immediately. The draft is supposed to be about how to help you down the road and in the future, and not just focusing on right now. And so for me, Kirk Cousins, beyond 2022, we have no idea what the situation is with Kirk Cousins. The Vikings shouldn't like being in that situation, and fans shouldn't like being in that situation where you're like, well, what's our deal with quarterback for the future? Because it's the most important position in football, and it's also a situation where you need to be able to build around somebody and know what your plan is. And if you don't have that with Kirk Cousins, because if Kirk Cousins, let's say Kirk Cousins doesn't want to sign a contract extension, he's not willing to, and he's like, well, I want to see how things play out, you're in a really bad situation going into next year and beyond because you have no idea what the plan is. So if you were to at least put yourself in a better situation, you could say, well, if one of these quarterbacks slips down to pick 8, 9, 10, 11, let's, any of those types of ranges, like a Trey Lance, even a Justin Fields. I'm not going to say Mac Jones, but like a Trey Lance or a Justin Fields slips to 8 to 11 range. You should be calling those teams and saying, we have a future need at quarterback. If we want to put ourselves in a better future situation at that position, or at least I'm not going to say they're going to be better than Kirk Cousins, but what you do is with the Vikings. So here's the thing. The Vikings know what the plan is going to be with Kirk Cousins because there clearly hasn't been any contract talks, extension talks now. So they know that they can't go into next year saying, hey, Kirk, you want to take another deal? And what's Kirk going to say? Yeah, we can start at $45 million a year because that's what his current cap hit's going to be in 2022. And what are the Vikings going to say? Yeah, well, let's do it because we have no other choice. What they should be doing is saying, hey, Kirk, we got a guy that's ready and waiting for the future. So if you're not willing to play ball with us, we have your replacement ready to go, and we'll move forward without you. And at least put the pressure on Kirk Cousins to say, do I really want to be in Minnesota long term, or do I want to go out and get the bag? And I will never fault any player for going and get the bag. Go secure the bag. You only have a limited amount of time to do it. But if Kirk Cousins wants to stay in Minnesota and this is the place for him, he'll find a way to make it a little bit more of, not even say a reasonable deal, but they'll find a way to both help each other out. And I think there's room to do that. If he's not willing to play ball, at least you have a position to say, hey, we have our future and we have a young guy that we can build around, because Mike Zimmer doesn't. Then you can tell Mike Zimmer, hey, we can put some more money towards your defense again because we can free up some dollars. There you go, Mike Zimmer.
There we go. Flip, you're back up. Why is that a terrible idea?
I'm not going to say it's a terrible idea. I'm going to say it's unrealistic as all hell. All this buzz about the Vikings taking a quarterback is fan generated, which I get. It's fun to talk about the draft. It's fun to talk about what if. But the hypothetical, the low probably situation where Justin Fields is there, I think we have to, just start talking about opportunity costs. Our boy Nick Olson did a mock draft today where he traded out of 14 when Fields was on the board, and people were like, oh, we're going to riot. Oh, we wouldn't do that. How dare you? No, only one person asked him what they got back in that trade, what he got back in that trade. So if Justin Fields is on the board, pick 14, you have to realize the phone is going to be ringing off the hook. And if that's the case, you're possibly just trading down in the first round and also getting the second round pick back. Maybe you're even getting an early second round pick from a team that passed on a quarterback earlier in the draft. So you could possibly have a situation where instead of drafting quarterback, you trade back and you all of a sudden you have the picks to fill the other three needs that we just talked about. And so that's why you potentially don't take the quarterback, because if you let me pick between quarterback or offensive tackle, wide receiver, and edge rusher, I think I'm going with the second choice.
Ooh. All right. Well, Flip, that's a wonderful segue because.
Wait, was that real? Flip, was that real? Was that real, Flip?
No, it was not real. It was not real.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I just wanted to set that up to make sure.
So, Flip, do you see a scenario in which the Vikings, based on what they've done so far this offseason, can do enough in the draft to make you feel like the Vikings are a legitimate, not just contender to get into the playoffs, because that seems often to be what we shoot for, but a legitimate playoff contender, a team that when people talk about the Vikings, it's wow, this team is going to make some noise. And if they ended up in a championship game, I wouldn't be surprised. Looking at the construction of the roster now and what's coming ahead in this draft, what are some scenarios that you could imagine that could lead the Vikings to being a team that we're oh, wow, they ended up being a lot better than I expected them to be?
Yeah, I think number one, Clint Kubiak's got to be a genius. That's probably the easiest path for us there. I have faith in this defense as currently constructed, especially with all the defensive players that we're getting back healthy.
And the first round edge rusher that's coming.
And that just the stacked defensive line. But other than Clint Kubiak being a genius and us, either drafting a quarterback or just a studly wide receiver, no, I don't see anything that can put us in the Super Bowl conversation, especially for edge rusher. Look, like, number one, we're 14. We're not top 5, so it's not like we're going to be getting a Nick Bosa or a Myles Garrett. But even if we were, like, what have the Chargers done with Joey Bosa? What have the Washington football team, what have they done with Chase Young and Montez Sweat? What have the Carolina Panthers done with Brian Burns? An edge rusher, no matter how good he is not going to result in instant Super Bowl contention. It just hasn't happened, regardless of how good that player is. Look at Bradley Chubb for the Denver Broncos. Look at Shaq Lawson. It's just not realistic. So if you want to win now, you go offense in the first round.
Ooh, I love it. Myles, are you on board, or do you see another path to true contention that might come for us out of the draft?
No. There are still too many question marks. I still wonder what the plan is. So they're sitting at right around $7.5 million in cap space. They get 7.9 in June. It feels like they're going to do something with some of that money. I'm not going to say they're going to spend it all, because obviously they can't, because they need to keep some money for draft picks and having in-season money. But like, there's room to do something. I wouldn't even call it significant, but like you could spend about $6 to $7 million of that if you wanted to. If you really wanted to, the Vikings could do that and spend it on a player in a trade or signing somebody. So there's room for them to add. Let's say they do go edge rusher in the first round. They could go sign an Eric Fisher, a Mitchell Schwartz, a Russell Okung, someone like that in free agency if they really wanted to do that, because they know they couldn't get themselves back into the second round to add an offensive tackle, something like that. Or vice versa, go get an edge rusher in free agency if you draft an offensive lineman early. There's a few things they can do there, but it doesn't make them immediate contenders, because to Flip's point, there's too many question marks at too many important areas. I still think cornerback is as much of not a need, but it's a question mark. Is Patrick Peterson going to become? Can he get to a high enough level to warrant the amount of money they paid him to be a cornerback one in this defense? He's still an unknown in that way. Cameron Dantzler's 140 pounds. Got hurt a lot last year. There's inconsistencies in the play. There were some high highs. I'm not going to sit here and say there wasn't, but he wasn't consistent either. So can he put together a consistent season? We have no idea what's going to happen with Jeff Gladney. Mackenzie Alexander's back. Mike Hughes who knows if he'll ever play football again. So there are some question marks at cornerback as well. Not saying that they need to go out and add a first round pick just to figure that out, but there are question marks at important areas. Wide receiver is another one. They don't have a third receiver that can threaten the defense. They have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. Then they have a couple of guys that can catch the football on short to intermediate routes. On short routes, I won't even say intermediate. Chad Beebe doesn't win in the intermediate routes. He just wins short. And so they don't have anybody to like that could step up and be a wide receiver too if Jefferson or Adam Thielen tweaked an ankle for a few weeks. They don't have those guys. So they're not – a defense can do a good enough job to stop their offensive line and to stop their pass game for a lot of those reasons. So to Flip's point, offense should be the main priority, because they're to at least try to get themselves close to contention if they want to get themselves, a deep playoff run.
I mean, we're talking about a mini camp battle between Mason Cole and Dakota Dozier, and you try to tell me and it's not even in person; it's a virtual competition.
Hey, Dakota Dozier's winning the virtual one for sure.
Oh, okay. So Deshaun, he's saying that there are a lot of questions, but he believes, even though we're talking about the DBs and the pass rush and all of those things, that pass blocking is the thing that is going to make or break the season, which is something we hear very often. I read earlier today from a Vikings fan on Twitter that if Rick Spielman doesn't go offensive, I think he just said offensive lineman, but I'm going to go ahead and just like round that up to offensive tackle in the first round.
People, yeah.
If he doesn't go offensive tackle in the first round, then like after 47 years of Vikings fandom, he probably will, I don't know, maybe not tweet for a couple of days, but then be right there with all the rest of us at the beginning of the season. But, you know.
Is that the A West cat?
No, it wasn't A West. It wasn't A West. A West lost all his faith, lost hope quite some time ago. But yeah, what do you guys think about this? That the fact that offensive line right now could be so much worse, I guess, than it was last year, that it will make or break the season, because the offensive line has not been good in a while. So I guess Flip, start me off here. What do you think about Deshaun's point? Offensive line, is that the thing? Is that the most important, the most glaring hole on the Vikings right now? The thing that is keeping you up, making you worried that the season will be in peril if they don't fix it right away?
I agree with that point, that it's the biggest glaring hole. But as far as it being make or break, I just can't agree to that. Even if we do address that offensive line in round one, there's no guarantee that player is going to start. There's no guarantee he's going to be day one better than Rashad Hill. And just the other side of this is that takes a tremendous, again, and it takes a tremendous amount of trust in Clint Kubiak to be able to coach up these players the same way Gary Kubiak did, be able to coach these players the same way Kevin Stefanski under Gary Kubiak's guidance did. So we could easily be in a situation where we've got bookend tackles for the next 5 years. And I love that scenario. I dream for that scenario. But that still does not mean we're going to instantly see 2021 season success because of 2 bookend tackles we've got.
All right, Myles, what are you thinking about pass blocking being the most important, the make or break for the upcoming season?
Well, so pass blocking is the more important aspect of offensive line play. We've seen this offensive line isn't even that good at run blocking. They just have Dalvin Cook and the scheme, and so pass blocking should be a priority for how they view their offensive linemen. The issue is asking that first round pick offensive lineman, or whenever they draft an offensive lineman first, expecting that offensive lineman to come in and fix all the problems. That's just not going to happen. Riley Reif didn't do that. Mason Cole sure as hell isn't going to come in and do that. And they haven't done anything else different to fix it. So I still don't understand. Like, I'm not saying they don't need to address it. That's not the argument. It's the idea that that's going to be that one player is going to be the make or break. It just isn't realistic. Riley Reif wasn't like, they couldn't get over the hump with Riley Reif. And he's probably better than any left tackle rookie that will be besides maybe Sewell as a rookie. I'm not talking long term, please, but like Riley Reif was really good in 2020, and so to expect rookies to play up to that level as rookies, it's asking them to do a lot. Tristan Wirfs, like those types of players don't grow on trees. That was a very lucky scenario for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get the best offensive lineman in the draft at, what was that, pick 14, I think, or 13 or whatever. They traded up one spot to grab him. But those types of players don't just grow on trees. And he got plugged into a situation that is significantly better than what offensive tackle will get plugged in to Minnesota. It's just facts. And so if the Vikings are really committed to fixing their the pass blocking, they'd go out and get a Mitchell Schwartz and Eric Fisher. They'd go out and get one of those free agents, or make a trade for somebody that has a proven track record of being good now, because then they could at least have a baseline level of how good that player is going to be. We don't have that right now. And so now we're putting all of our hope and expectation into a rookie that you have no idea how good they're going to be. And that's why, for me, the draft is not about the year one. The draft is about the future. So we need to make sure that we find guys. So now we're in a situation where these guys have to be immediate contributors. And it just asks a lot of rookies. And it's just, they shouldn't be the reason you're a make or break like playoff team. They really shouldn't.
Ooh. Flip, I want to ask you, is Rick Spielman good at his job?
It's interesting. The NFL.com just put out a GM power rankings that only analyze the last 5 years of drafting. And Rick Spielman ranked 6th in those rankings. Now, that included 2015, which was Rick Spielman's banner year. But even down the line from that, Rick Spielman, he's a great drafter. I think one of the most underrated things that we don't talk about Rick Spielman is he gives the coaches exactly what they want. And one of the issues with the offensive line is where Rick Spielman has struggled the most. But he's been good on the defensive side of the ball. He's been great in defensive drafting. He's been good outside of one miss, drafting and finding wide receiver talents. The offensive line issues, if you ask me, you have to remember just the amount of coaching turnover we've had on the offensive line. So when you take a GM who is good at giving coaches what they say they need to succeed, and then you keep on having new coaches, that really makes it harder for Rick Spielman to be good in that one specific area. But overall, if you're a football coach, Rick Spielman is a dream GM to work for, because he's going to go out, he's going to get you exactly what you think you need to succeed.
So why is it, given that we're saying that Rick is good at his job, that we also seem to find ourselves in this position year over year, where basically what you guys are saying is like the Vikings have a very obvious glaring need, and then like they immediately address that need for like the year that's about to come. But it seems that maybe the planning for a couple years down the road isn't what we'd want to see. As Myles,
because
talked about this,
we got a defensive-minded coach. Like the second there's a hole on the defensive side of the ball, it's fixed immediately. And
I do. It's clear that Zim has more control over the roster than what I think everybody realizes.
We know
Zim very much gets his. What's up, Donnie?
Welcome, Donnie.
We knew it was you. It's clear that like Zim gets his way more often than not. Like Zim's defense is priority. That's always been my issue with Zim. Is Zim is not the head coach. He is the defensive coordinator who acts as the head coach. And I think that's been my biggest issue with him. Is you got to make sure the whole team is good, not just your side of the ball, because you're coaching that side of the football. Like, yeah. I don't even know what else to say about it. Like, it's just clear. No, for real though. It's just clear that Zim gets a lot more of his way. You see it in the draft. You see it in free agency. Like even when they went out and signed Kirk Cousins, they were like, "Oh, we got you Sheldon Richardson though, Mike Zim. So like can you like give us a break? Like we got you a defensive tackle that can rush the passer and stop the run, and just to make him happy, just to make sure that he was like good with that. It just feels like there is too much control. Like to Flip's point, Rick Spielman does do a really good job of the types of players that his coaches want and need and are looking for. He does a good job of finding those types of players. They might not always work out, but like the like athletic offensive linemen, he's really good at finding the athletic offensive linemen. Not all of them are good, but he's finding the specific traits and the style of the offensive line that he's being told that they're looking for. Same with defensive line, cornerback, like all the other positions. He's finding those types of players. Now, the issues I've run into with Rick Spielman has been how he's evaluated the quarterback, wide receiver, mainly on offense, how they've evaluated the cornerback, wide receiver positions, and how they've treated running back like the most important position on the team on offense, on the most important position on offense. And that's always been something that I struggled with Rick Spielman.
Yeah. So again, I'm not trying to be too negative. I'm just saying that the defensive build is clearly Mike Zimmer driven. And you know what? 2021, let's do it. Let's trot out the third best defense or a top 3 defense in the NFL. And let's trot out a functional offense and let's win as many freaking football games as we can. But to suggest that they're trying to do anything other than that they're trying to draft Justin Fields or they're trying to fix the offensive line, like those are going to be the strengths or the make or break parts of this football team. No, that's it. This is a defensive focused football team. We're going to win or lose based on that Zimmer, on that defense. That's the way that Zimmer wants to do it. And also, so Donnie, what's going on here, man? You forget your password. Why you got a new screen name, Donnie?
You logged in from the burner today, so we can say what's up.
Too much Pornhub, Donnie? What happened? What happened, Donnie?
Oh, well, I mean, Flip dropping Pornhub, and we made it to the end of our show sheet. So, what better time to wrap things up before we get out of hand in here? Flip, Myles, anything else you wanted to discuss before we close this thing out and get Dave back in here?
I still think a trade for Orlando Brown from the Ravens is something that we should still consider. Like, I still think listen, I still think the best scenario for the Vikings, if they can get it to work, is a pick swap with the Ravens with pick 14 and pick 27. Get Orlando Brown back if you have to throw in a fourth rounder or whatever to make the deal done. Fine. Then you figure out a way to go get an edge rusher with the 27th overall pick. You have an impact left tackle now that's only making $3 million. You don't have to worry about paying him right now. I understand it becomes like all those guys have been traded for. They hold the team hostage and they get paid a lot more than they should. Blah blah blah. Well, the Vikings, in my opinion, you really wouldn't be investing that much money to get an Orlando Brown here if that were the case. A pick swap is 13 picks, and maybe you're tossing a fourth round pick. Yes, sure, that like in hindsight it looks like a lot, but to get a player, let's say you have Orlando Brown now, and let's say you franchise tag him next year. If you only had him for 2 years in that type of deal, I still think that would be worth the trade back 13 spots to have a guy that can be good right now. I think that'd be fine with me, and then you still find your way to get that young edge rusher that you're looking for in the late 20s. I still think that might be the best solution to finding, to Deshaun's point, finding someone that can help you now that has a baseline level of how good they can be, and also get that edge rusher. So then you're not, that basically gets you your second round pick back.
All right, Flip.
Yeah, I love that. I'm not as big of a fan of the trade, but just the idea behind it, and also just taking that a step further and saying, okay, for us to make that trade as cheap as possible, what do we need on the draft board when 14 comes around? We need a bunch of great wide receivers on that board. We may even need an offensive, some offensive linemen on that board. So just trying to think before the Vikings pick, instead of just waiting for them to trade up, just start hoping the right players fall so that we can trade down and get all the things we need to set up for a successful 2021.
Love it. All right. Well, that is it. We have made it. Myles made David very happy as we brought this thing home. So, David, pop in, play the music.
Donnie.
Politics and
Thank you for watching or listening. As always, if you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. And if you're listening to the podcast, please rate us on your favorite aggregator. Skol, everybody.